Hi, I'm Valerie Rose, and welcome to Pictures Up. I'm here with David Buchanan, producer and director of Black. Welcome, David. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, first of all, let me start off by saying congratulations for everything that's happening with Black. Can you talk a little bit about the film and what's happening with it?
Yeah, so just finished up Black in actually 2018, got a release in 2019. We got it on Amazon Prime right now, so it's available for anybody to watch. Just
Mhm.
type in Black on Amazon and they can check it out. And there's a couple of movies on there, so you might want to, look for the one with my name, and then,
Ah, okay.
then you'll be able to watch it. So
Okay.
yeah, it's doing pretty good. We just were in the Duluth Superior Film Festival and got a really good reception from that. We're supposed to
Nice.
be in the Minnesota Historical Society in the fall, and it
Nice.
might be playing as well down south in St. Louis, I believe, in like a conference, which
Okay.
would be cool. Yeah.
Okay. And for audience members who don't know, can you talk a little bit about the film and what it's about?
So Black is about a guy who loses his brother to police brutality and how he starts an uprising from that loss. So essentially, it's a revolution movie. It's about revolution within the Black community because
Okay.
of police brutality.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, can you talk to me a little bit about your casting process? How do you cast? What are you looking for? What makes an actor stand out? I mean, what's going on in your head when you're behind the camera?
So typically, how I look at casting is well, first I'm writing the script, so I have a certain character in mind when I'm writing it.
Mhm.
Either I'm basing this character on somebody, where it's like I want a person to embody this character. So when I go into the casting, I'm looking to see if they match up with what's on the script, or if they're giving me new ideas to what the character could be.
Mm.
And so, depending on their audition, I would do like a second and a third, just to make sure that they're capable of understanding direction. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I really like to get a lot of help from other actors in that avenue. So, specifically on Black, Tucson had a lot of input on the actors who were coming out, and he would give me his notes, and then I would go back and reflect on that, look at the videos of the actors and their auditions, and seeing if they're kind of delivering what I need them to deliver on camera, and if they're taking direction well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's kind of like auditioning 101 for me. There's other things that I think helps, like not really any actor in Minnesota has done this, but being off book is really good. Every single actor that came into the audition wasn't off book, which is like maybe that's a Minnesota thing. I hear that's like not a thing anywhere else. Like if you come in and you're reading off the script anywhere else, unless it's a cold read, but
Mm-hmm.
that's like a no. So
Yeah.
I kind of like let that go. But if you're good at memorizing, that's really good too. And if you can do that in an audition, that shows that you're gonna know your lines on set, which is good.
Well, that was exactly my next question. What's the best thing that an actor can do coming in into an audition, and what's the worst thing that an actor can do coming into an audition? And so, what I'm hearing you saying is that being off book, and if you talk about off script, well, in case you don't know, it means if you have to read from your script, then that's not a good thing.
Right.
Correct. So
Yeah.
unless you want to add something else.
No, I think if you're capable of memorizing in an audition, that's really good. I think the worst thing you could do is, I mean, I don't think it's the opposite of that, because I think so many people in Minnesota don't do that. So it's like, how can you really fault them for it? But I
Mm-hmm.
think there's been a lot of people that came in audition who they weren't receptive to the material, and I feel like they knew it. So it's like, why are you reading? That's one thing. Also, people coming in like outfits, like I'm not a big fan of, like, if it's a police officer, don't show up in a police officer's outfit. We had somebody do that, and I was like, we don't we don't need to see what you look like in a cop uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think if you and it really depends too on who is doing it. It's like everybody has different personalities. I typically like a person who's comes in with questions and asks like, I don't know, like, okay, my character's saying this, and is that because of something that happened previously, or what's the lead up to it? And then it's like, okay, then I can give them some direction going into it, and then maybe it has a different outcome. I remember one person who auditioned for me a while back was for a short film rideshare, and they were auditioning for the woman in the back seat, and she was really taking the character to another level in terms of like uh, cartoonish. It felt like, and I'm like, don't do that. Like, it's not supposed to be like this. I don't know what I can't remember what I said. It's just in the moment, but it was like it wasn't supposed to be this big thing. It's just relax and act like it's a normal person. She took the direction very well and did a great job. Like the second read through, so that's always good. But if you have your own ideas, I think it's good to come in with your own ideas as well, so I can see what your choices are. So it's like, are you capable of making good choices?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, then you're probably not going to be in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's just a personality thing of
Mm-hmm.
like people deciding that the script is one thing when really it's another thing, and it's like there's nothing you can really do about it if it's the director's vision.
Mm-hmm. And do you expect the actors to read through the entire script when they come in for an audition, or just do you give sides so that they have that, or?
I just expect them to know the sides. I don't ever give out the full script.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very rare that I do that. Sometimes I will, if it's if yeah, I don't do that. I think I did that one time, and I will never do that again. So it's like an actor just needs to read the sides,
Mm-hmm.
and know that. And sometimes I've done cold reads because I just want to see how it comes off. And then that's the case, and it's just like you're going to be reading off the script, and that's good. But another thing is too, it's like you got to really know how to read well too. Like that helps. It's like not in terms of like messing up words, but just in terms of reading well as like, are you performing it? Are you not looking down at the paper all the time? Because if you're not reading well and you don't know how to read and then kind of look up at the person who's like giving you the lines,
Mm-hmm.
then all we see is your eyes down as you're reading the paper as you're
Right.
performing. So it doesn't work, and
Yeah.
we can't really see what's going on. And then it's gonna take more auditions. Even if you sound good, it's like gonna take more auditions to see what that performance is. So I think people just practicing how to read scripts and perform them is going to be something valuable.
Mm-hmm. And then one question I had is when you talked about just having the sides, how would the person necessarily know what the context of what their character is supposed to be, if they just have the sides and they didn't have the whole script?
Well, hopefully one, there could be a character breakdown, and then hopefully that kind of gives some insight to the character.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, if they do the first read through and then they typically it would be good for them to have questions about their character or questions about like the substance of what's happening or what came before it and what's coming after it, so they know kind of what space or environment or feeling that they're supposed to be in when reading those sides. Because otherwise, if you're just coming in and like being very robotic with it, in terms of like, I'm gonna just read these and as is and that's what it is, and yeah, it's probably not gonna come across as like you're feeling the character unless you're really good at that. Some people are just really good at just reading in general. It's like they perform well and they read well, and it's like they don't have to know everything, but those are rare birds. Those are like, I maybe know like 2 people out of the hundreds.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one question I have, and it's I always get different answers to this question, so I'm still not even really sure myself. Well, what colors should an actor wear to an audition? Because, well, photographers, I mean, some people say blue, or what do you look for when somebody's audition in terms of color? What looks good?
Um, I never look at that.
No.
I
Okay.
mean, I don't. If somebody, because I feel like if anybody comes in dressed a certain way, or they try to dress like the character, like if you get the character breakdown and it says something like he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and the person comes in with a Hawaiian shirt, does that show dedication or does that show that this person's desperate for a role?
Hmm.
Because I don't think they're going to be very good, and usually they're not. So it's like, I mean, one guy came in, he was chewing gum in the audition, and he was like, I wouldn't have did that. I told him to spit out his gum after he did the read, and he was like, yeah, I wouldn't have did that, but I felt like that was this character. And it's like, he made a choice, right? And he tried it, and we tried it, but it didn't work. So it's like, but that's my personality. Some other people might be like, oh, I like it when people show up in uniforms, or I like it when they try to dress like the character. It shows that they got vigor, and it's like, I'm kind of like they're trying too hard.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because I actually do that a lot, not necessarily as a doctor or something like that, but if I have a professional character, I will show up, in that vein. And a lot of times, well, sometimes it's just once I've already been booked too, because the wardrobe person will say, well, I like what they'll say, bring all these options, so you bring, but I usually dress the way the character would dress, and they'll say, I like what you have on right there, and then I never really even have to open my suitcase. So it's interesting to hear you say that. And I do remember, I don't know why this sticks out in my mind, but in Coming to America, the lady who was doing the barking or whatever, she said she did something like that where she came exactly like the character and then she got booked. So I don't know, I guess it's just different personalities or whatever. But when you're looking at the person's resume, they submitted it, what do you look for? Are you looking for?
I never look at a person's resume.
Really?
Yeah, I never do. I think it's funny. I was actually at someone's house and they showed me the book of Hollywood actors, right? Like, so when you're doing a Hollywood movie, and it's like it's whatever, it's like DGA, SAG, all this good stuff, right? And you're doing this with like big stars or whatever. They send out these booklets, and it's like UTA, CAA, blah blah blah, right? And they send out these booklets for the director to look through. And I was at this guy's house and I was looking at them, and I'm like, not only are the pictures really shitty, which is funny too because it's like, and not all of them are, but like Jake Gyllenhaal's picture was really shitty, and his resume had like 4 movies. I mean, 4 of his biggest films, I guess, but it's just like, people don't know who he is. Now, in terms of like, so in my mind, I don't know if they even care, but in my mind, in terms of local actors, or people maybe who aren't as big as Jake Gyllenhaal, right? It's like, if you're gonna have a resume, you should probably put on your resume, if I were going to look at it, directors you've worked with, your leading parts, never anything else, unless you're going for a supporting role, which in that case you should have separate resumes. You should have a resume for your leading parts, a resume for your supporting parts, and like 3 references. So that way I could call somebody and say, hey, is this person crazy to deal with or something on set or whatever? Because you might have somebody like long ago, like super long ago, there was an actor on set who had to actually be removed. and luckily I wasn't directing it, so I didn't have to do that. I was just I was the DP, but and I saw that and I was like, yeah, that would have been a really good thing to know if this person was crazy or not. But and I think that's it. And it's like, why those reasons? The directors you work with, because then you can kind of see like, okay, this person responds well with this person, and I know that person or whatever. You know, your roles in terms of like leading role in this, and it's like, okay, because that's good, because then you can look up the film and then you know that you're capable of handling a tremendous amount of dialogue or whatever the leading part, so you're able to be scheduled that day.
Right.
And then yeah, the references are just to know how kind of how you are. But other things, it's like I see on there are like my talents are whistling. It's like, who cares? But I don't know. And I that's why I just tend to not look at them. You know, I think if anything, reels might be more important. And even in terms of reels, let's say they don't always show. I think people's reels are like cut up in a way that they're not coherent. And I think they're not coherent because they're not specific as terms of like, here's a reel of me in commercials, here's a reel of me in movies, here's a reel of me in whatever this voiceover thing, right? Like same thing with having different resumes. Having different reels makes a lot of sense, because when somebody sends a reel with them in like a movie, a commercial, this thing and that thing, and it's all in one thing, it's like, well, are you gonna do this? Are you capable of doing this movie? It's like you're not really showing variety as much as you're just showing me you've done a bunch of things, and it's like that doesn't mean anything to me. So I think that's something that could be worked on.
What if somebody doesn't have a lot of stuff and they just, you know, they're just starting out and they did this, they did that, and, you know, because you have to have a real, you know, to send, you know, but if that's all they have.
Because they're just starting out.
What if they just did one thing and this is my reel and it's, you know, 5 seconds long, you know?
You well, know? If they're just starting out, I would say I don't have one. I mean, like, it's because people's reels are so shitty. Like, I would not pick somebody over their crappy reel. Like, oh, I don't want this person. So it's like, if you don't have a reel and you go audition, that's better, because then it's like, if you nail the audition, you don't need a reel. If you send me a reel and it's not good, then I don't even really want to see you. I mean, there's been times where people have wanted to audition with me and I would like not even respond, because I'm like, this person obviously they're not going to be capable. And I could just tell just from the email, you know.
But the reel that would pull you in would be...
Well, the reel that would pull me in is just really a coherent reel of like, okay, here's my film stuff. Here's a film thing. It's got to have like some sort of arc of a like genre, hopefully. Like, I wouldn't put like the comedy right next to the horror, you know. I would like make it make sense. So if it's like, if you want to start off with comedy, then maybe you should end with like horror or drama or something, right? Like, what is the transition that's going to make me feel like I'm watching something that's, yeah, just, I think coherent is the best word I can come up with. I just don't like it when it's it feels like a bunch of clips of things, and it's like none of it's like, you know, like I'm like somebody's like has a popsicle commercial in the middle of their drama, you know, that they did for like, for instance, like In an Instant. Like, a lot of people got that on the reel, and so they got In an Instant on a reel, and then they got this other thing that doesn't make sense with that. It's like,
okay,
yeah. And also, like, probably getting professional editors, you know, because sometimes I've seen people's reels where it's like they didn't put a lot of thought into how this was going to be laid out, and I think an editor is going to help you linearly help with that. So it's like, well, let's start off your face, right? So we know what you look like.
Mm.
Like a face shot and a body shot's really good. A name, contact information, and then we're gonna get into whatever the scene is, and then that scene is gonna like transition into this scene, which is gonna make sense, and then boom, 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 and then you end again with like, face, body shot, name, contact information. So it's like kind of bookended that way,
Mm.
as opposed to like you start off with a scene and it's like we're trying to get to the information, or don't have the information, right? Just have the scenes there. I would do one or the other, and the reason for that is like having the information there. They might have it just in a Rolodex of reels, right? So it's like, here's a Rolodex of reels. Here's the one I click on, and then it has your information there. Or they're gonna already have your information, and they don't want all that crap. But then that's something you got to decide on, right?
Mm.
In terms of like how you're gonna make it flow. But really, I think an editor is gonna help with that, because and then other people's input can help too. So if you like show it to people, like I don't know how many people show their reels. Like I don't know if they do that, but it's like if you don't do that, you're not gonna be able to. You're not gonna get the input that's gonna be helpful, maybe. So it's like it's a good thing to do. I mean, it's your work, right? So it's like people are gonna see it anyways. At least you want people to see it. So it's another way to promote yourself by showing people your reel, to ask for their input, but also to like to get that help that might drive it into a different direction that might be better for you to showcase your talents, or even just be like, I don't like that scene. That's not good. It's not a good scene you're in, and take it out, because some people, they have some good stuff and they have some bad stuff. It's like, here's something that's bad, here's something that's good, and it's like the bad stuff like cuts out all the good stuff. It's like, well, you got more bad stuff than you got good stuff in here, and it's like that's not gonna. It's better to have a 1 to 2 minute reel than a 4 to 5 minute reel.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask this though. Talking about reels, I know you've been pretty gracious with giving actors clips for their reels. What do you think is the best way to approach a producer or director? Because sometimes people are very, they don't want to give you clips.
Wait till it's done.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, because they're doing stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm busy all the time. So if you ask me for it at the wrong time, it's like I can't give it to you. And Black is done now, so it's like you're in. It's like you're in the movie. Like I don't think that it's not asking for it because it's yours, right? Unless you sign a document that says like you can't use any of this stuff in your reel, right? Like if that's the case, then they should tell you that right off the bat. I didn't have any of the actors sign anything that says you can't use this for your reel. So it's like it's yours anyways. You were in the film, you can use it. But if actors are worried about getting their stuff, like if that's a problem, it's probably because they ask at the wrong time. Like if I'm busy, then how am I gonna go back into the film, edit this thing out for you, Dropbox it, whatever this takes time to do, right? And then I mean, there wasn't that many people in Black. Like as far as like actors, there's I think like 14, I believe. Maybe less than that, 12 to 14. But just imagine like if everybody bombarded me with that in the like right now it's the busy season. If an actor asked me for a reel right now, I'd probably be like, yeah, I can get it to you, but it's gonna have to take a minute. But it's not that I'm not supposed to, right? Like I should be doing that because you were in the movie. I mean, it's your prerogative to get the clip so you can have it you can get more jobs from it. So it's not, a producer or a director should never say, no, you can't not have it, because they should have told you that beforehand.
Well, it's not, I mean, again, you've been very gracious about giving clips, but sometimes you will ask a director or producer for, a clip, and they just don't respond because they don't want to give it to you or whatever. So I was just wondering, is there some kind of protocol or some kind of rule or something that, but I guess
Well, you can ask them why.
Well, if they don't respond, you can't. I mean, there's been people who have been very gracious and say, "Oh, sure, I'll get it to you," da 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 da, and extend it or whatever. But there's other people who just
Don't respond to one email.
Well, maybe one or two, and then you just say, "Okay, fine. I guess the person didn't want to give it to me," and you roll on. But I just wonder,
I would ask
from
why.
your perspective.
Yeah, I would ask why. I mean, I don't. My perspective is like, especially if you do it for free, they should give it to you. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting paid and they have you sign something that says like, you can't use this in a whatever, then that's because I have seen that. Like, you can't, because some people don't. Some people don't want their stuff misinterpreted in any way,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be on actors' reel or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a little bit more rare, or that might be more like a corporate thing, right? That might be, but not even, because in an instant, I've seen that on people's reels. So it's like Committee Films is letting people do it. So I would just ask them why, like, why won't you give me the clip? And if they, like, what can I say? Because I mean, like, at a certain point, it's like, I mean, if there's no reason, then it's like, unless they're ashamed of their work. I have no idea, because from my perspective, right, if you ask me, I'm gonna give it to you as long as I'm not busy.
Yeah, and that's great, but there's again, there's just been people who just won't respond, and from an actor's perspective, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to make the producer director angry because maybe I won't get cast again or whatever. So you ask once, maybe ask it twice, and you're like, okay, fine.
Maybe you could ask beforehand before you.
Well, that's been done too. So it just varies. I just wonder from the producer.
Are those people around still? Like, when you ask them, do they still do more work, or are they like not around?
They're around. Some people are in town. Some people were LA, and they just and just from my perspective, I did ask. In fact, I was just in a piece. It was a commercial piece with my two girls, and I asked the person, and they said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then I found them on LinkedIn and asked, and no response, and so then I ended up finding on YouTube, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll just use this.
Yeah.
So that's usually my workaround. I'll use, or there might be somebody else who found something, so I just wondered, from that perspective. But
also, it's like, if you have their direct email, that might be a better approach. I mean, I don't know too much about LinkedIn, but I'm not on it that often. I mean, I think people have sent me messages and I've never read them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I'm not on that. I think that, like, if you're gonna approach me, the best way is my email.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends, but LinkedIn is not one of them. Or Twitter. If you
Right.
message me on Twitter, I'm not gonna ever notice it. I'm on Twitter like maybe once a week, and I don't even know if I know how to get to my DMs, to be honest. But I think, I mean, like, in terms of just like, if you can find the work, just take it anyways. It doesn't even matter. Like, you don't have to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a thing unless you sign an NDA form for that particular thing.
One question about reels: what if a person has a mixture of something that they've done with a self-tape of an audition that they thought was really good? Is that a no?
No, don't put that in there.
Okay. Just ask. Okay, now we'll get on with this real quick so you can get out of here. But shoot, I was gonna ask you. Well, one thing I was gonna ask you is, how did you get interested in filmmaking?
Well, that's hard.
Well, you can just
give that's hard.
Abridged version or a general version or whatever.
I don't know. I feel like how I knew about movies is I saw Jurassic Park and I realized somebody made the film, right? Like, I was like 6 to 8 years old, and something around there, but I was super young, right? And I saw the movie and I realized that movies, this is where I realized what a movie was, because I knew dinosaurs didn't exist because I'm out walking around. There's no dinosaurs, so I was like, okay, you know. And then my mom told me it was Steven Spielberg, so I think that was my first like actual like introduction to film. I think how I got interested is I was making home movies. Again, my mom bought me a video camera, like one of those high 8 cameras, those tape cameras, and I was making home movies. And then my brother introduced me to like a vocational training thing called PCTV, called Phillips Community Television. Started there at like 12, and then I started working there at 14. So then when I started working there, I was getting paid to make docs, and pretty much ever since then, I've just been always in the film. And then it just kind of was like always that for me. Like I think. Yeah, I'm not one of the people who went to college and like found film in college. You know, it's kind of like always been a part of my life. So it's like it's hard to really pinpoint when the interest happened, because I think it just was always there, and my family is very art driven. Yeah, so it's like my mom was a painter, my brother is an amazing painter, my dad did some painting and some drawing. And so it's like, and my dad was a really good photographer. In fact, that's how he met my mom.
Okay.
So it's like, I think it's like, that's just kind of in my blood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of training as well, because I think that's how we met. Weren't you in like a training with I can't remember the name of that.
No,
place.
I was working there. So
you were working.
I was
Okay.
basically the top guy there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was training the youth.
Okay.
Yeah, that was me training the youth on how to make movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just quick, I could just touch on this real quick. For prospective filmmakers, do you have any quick advice for them?
On just like how to
get into it, or any filmmaking or whatever.
It's funny you mentioned that, because just earlier today I was talking to somebody who just got out of McAllister, and she's looking at getting into narrative filmmaking.
Okay.
And it's just like, I think it's just hustling.
Mm-hmm.
I think hustle is like the biggest thing you can do. You got to go to, I mean, you could do internships with production companies, you know, you can like try to get on sets, and like, you know, Minnesota Film Board, and then all the, you know, the groups on Facebook, and like, I mean, Minnesota's not, it's a place where you're going to be working a lot for free to get into filmmaking. So, and until you build up like your credentials and your networking, it's like, that's just kind of what it is. It's not really like New York or California, where it's like they'll start you off at any level and start paying you like crap wage, like $75 a day, but like, you know, at least you're getting paid, right? Whereas like here, you're just going to be working for free for like 2-3 years, but after that, then you can, you know, really start getting into it. But it's, you know, it's all different too, right? Like if you look at Minnesota and what we do here, it's mostly commercials. It's not film, you know. I mean, our tax incentives are $1 million again this year, so they don't really care about movies that much, you know. But there's a lot of commercials to be done here, and a lot of nonprofits, you know. So for filmmakers, it's like, you know, you can do that kind of stuff. But if you're really trying to be in the film business, I wouldn't start here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple more questions real quick. Just so our audience knows, can you talk about what the difference, because you're a producer director, what's the difference between the two?
Well, a director is somebody who's steering the ship. So they gotta wake up in the morning and literally inspire everyone every single day and solve problems on set. You know, that's the thing. And hopefully in pre-production and post-production, what a producer is there for is to help the director. So the director is really the one they're doing the most on a day-to-day basis, and the producer is like that facilitator to be like, what do you need? I'm here to help you, right? So for instance, I tend to say that there's three types of producers, and now there's not, in terms of like film business, they say it's like associate producer, executive producer, producer, line producer, but I say there's like really three types of producers. There's the logistical producer, who's going to figure out all the logistics of like, okay, is this location we can get and get it on time, and the people in there, and like get the trucks and all that stuff. Then there's the producer who's got like the charismatic type of vibe. Some people call it UPM, but I feel like it's just the charismatic producer is going to be the one to like, help the director inspire people and make sure people are, it's like there's no issues on set and stuff like this, and like, get maybe some crew members or some, they can, maybe like have ideas of crew members or have ideas of talents and stuff like this, and they're really good at like talking to people, and like they got a big wide berth of a network. And then the third is the money person, the person who just like all business. It's like,
That's the executive producer.
yeah, technically they call that executive producer. I just call it the money person.
Oh, okay.
But that's like that kind of producer is like the more rare bird. It's like usually those people are like, they can't spot them. It's like a bald eagle kind of thing. It's like,
yeah. Okay. So can you talk to me a little bit about the importance of training in the casting process and in producing a film?
So I think training is really important, just in terms of like, if some of the best actors that I've worked with been through some type of acting class or some type of vocational training, whether it's in school or outside of school, and they go through a program or whatever that is, just because it feels like they're more prepared. It's like for instance, a person who might be trained in something to know like, okay, it's good to have script notes because I need to be building up this character. I can do that, right? Like, I write and direct my own films. But if you can do that, it's better, because it's like you're gonna have the whole history of the character. Who does that better? Probably people who come from the stage. I've realized, well, what does the stage have over film? They have better training. Typically they have better training. So it's really important, just in terms of like knowing your own character and then being able to bring that character to life on screen, and then also helping the director out in that way, because it's like, look at all this work that I've done. I put in the homework to know this character that well and then bring them to life. And without that, it's like it doesn't really make a great film. I mean, why do people go to movies anyways? It's mostly to see characters, right? I mean, who goes
to escape too? To
escape, but mostly to see characters. They're looking at actors on a screen, right? So it's like nobody goes to a movie to be like, oh, I wanted to see that great plot. No one initially goes to a movie to be like, I want to see that great plot. And most of the time when people come out, they're talking about a character. When people come out of movies talking about stories and plots, it's like the Sixth Sense sort of thing. It's like, oh, that was a really good twist. But that's, again, it's like that's one movie out of how many movies? I mean, even in terms of like big Marvel films, what do they talk about? They talk about the characters. And those are big Marvel films. When you talk about like independent films, you're talking about like how, like this character went through so much, So the actor's job is a big one. When they don't have the skills or the training to deliver that, it's like, I mean, it's a problem. Here's the thing though. I don't know if all the blame is going to be on the actor as much as it will be on the director, because usually the director is the one who's making the final say. He or she is making the final say. And so if they're like, if the director picks an actor who doesn't have the skills, or at least some sort of like, limit, a good limit on their talent, then it's that's really who's gonna get blamed for it. But again, if you're in the film as an actor and you look bad, in the industry, the director is going to get blamed, but everybody else is going to remember your bad performance. So it's like it's equally a bad thing. So being prepared is really important, just in terms of like more work, right? Like if you want to work, you want to be good.
Right.
Well, what's going to make you good is probably going to be the foundation that you stand on, unless you're one of those natural birds. But that's really not a thing. That's like that's such a rare thing that it's like not even nobody talks about that, you know.
Okay. Well, any last words for our actors, prospective actors?
Last words for actors. I think honestly, it's like acting 101 is just learning your lines. I think there's too many actors, at least in town, that don't know their lines. I feel like it's like they're showing up learning them. It's like, were you drinking the night before? Like, what are you doing? So, but that's like, I think that's a 101. I think maybe a more intricate thing is like understanding what it is. Like if you can't understand it, you should try to gain some understanding of why this person is going through this thing and why they're saying these particular words, because then that's gonna put a whole nother onion layer effect on the work.
And from from a director producer, or from a director perspective, is it okay for the actor to ad lib as long as they're keeping to the script pretty much, or do you don't?
For
like
me,
that?
it is.
Or you should ask the director, is it okay? Hey, if I.
Yeah, you can ask them. I think for me, it's okay. I think that when it starts getting into the realm of like you're not saying the proper thing, right? Like it doesn't make sense for the story to say it this way, or it doesn't make sense at all because it's like it's not coherent, or it doesn't make any sense. Then it's a problem, right? So it's like I've had actors do that where it's like you said something in an ad lib and it doesn't make any sense. Like your character wouldn't even say that, so you're ad libbing to be cool as opposed to ad libbing because you feel like that's something your character would do.
Right. Well, David, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out. And there you have it, folks. Words of wisdom from producer-director David Buchanan. And join us next time for veteran actor Deb Dowd.